My dear students of HS second year course, today I am going to teach you a lesson in English. Okay, the name of the title of the lesson is Memoirs of a CHOTA SAHIB. Okay, I am writing the title of the lesson on the board. Memoirs of a CHOTA SAHIB. So this lesson is written by a British officer, forest conservator of forest officer. The name of the writer is John ROWNTREE. So please remember the name of the writer. Memoirs of a CHOTA SAHIB. It was written by John ROWNTREE. This John ROWNTREE was the last British senior conservator of forest of Assam. Okay. So during his stay in Assam, he had gathered many experiences here. So in his autobiography, his A CHOTA SAHIB, Memoirs of a Forest Officer, he has described his experiences during his stay in Assam. Okay, and Assam means of that time the state of seven sisters. Okay, that means Assam was the state of seven sisters, and we should recall the seven sisters of Assam. And today I will tell you a simple formula to recall or remember these seven states of Assam. Okay, so Assam was called the state of seven sisters. So how will you remember, my dear students? So the easy way to remember these seven states of Assam is A square, M cube and T. So if you abbreviate this, then you will remember all these seven states. Here A square is equal to Assam and Arunachal Pradesh. Okay, Arunachal Pradesh. Second, this M cube implies Manipur, Meghalaya and Mizoram. Okay, we have already got 5 states of Assam. Now N implies Nagaland, and then T means Tripura. So these 7 states belong to Assam, and that is why Assam was called the state of seven sisters. And if we ask the students to name the 7 states of Assam, most of them cannot answer. So that is why this is my formula. I have discovered it, how to remember these 7 states of Assam. So if somebody remembers like this, A square, M cube and T, then it will be the name of the 7 states of Assam. Okay. During the British Raj, this John ROWNTREE stayed in Assam. He had travelled many parts of India. Okay, he had travelled many parts of India, and in hot season, when the heat of the sun was unbearable, then he came to Assam, and he made his first home at Guwahati on the bank of the river Brahmaputra. So all of us know that Guwahati stands on the bank of the Brahmaputra, and there this writer John ROWNTREE, who is known as a CHOTA SAHIB, made his first home at Guwahati on the bank of the Brahmaputra. Okay, there he started to stay, and the weather became tolerable, and he found the climate of Assam very friendly. So on the bank of the Brahmaputra at Guwahati, he made his first home. Okay, so he enjoyed the view of the Brahmaputra from his bungalow. And the PWD, what do you mean by PWD? Public Works Department. Public Works Department. The home which he started to stay in, the Public Works Department, that means PWD, had painted lime wash on his house. And again, they had also painted wood oil on the wood, that means the wood of the house. So in this way, they stayed there. So the writer is saying that he was the last British senior conservator of Forest of Assam. And what did he do? He left Shillong with his family a few days after independence and returned to England, where he took up work as a journalist and media commentator. Even after the independence of India, he stayed in Assam. And Assam means Shillong. Okay? During that time, Shillong was also within Assam. Okay? So after independence also, he stayed in Assam. And after independence of India, he left India with his family and went to England, and going there he took up work as a journalist and media commentator. Then he wrote his book, a CHOTA SAHIB, Memoirs of a Forest Officer, and here he has also mentioned his experiences and the cultures of the people of Assam, mainly the people of scheduled SC, ST people of Assam. Okay. Now, this great writer who stayed in Assam has started his excerpt here. We arrived at Guwahati after the long dusty journey across India. That means it was a hot season, summer season, and all over India there was extremely hot, and that is why the writer is saying, we arrived at Guwahati after the long dusty journey across India and made our first home on the bank of the Brahmaputra as the cold weather was getting underway and the climate becoming bearable. That means when he came to Assam, that means when he made his first home at Guwahati, the climate became friendly, it became tolerable, and he got comfort in Guwahati. Okay. The Public Works Department had given the walls of the bungalow a coat of fresh lime wash and had painted the woodwork liberally with art oil. Okay. Then the bungalow where he began to started staying, the Public Works Department had given the walls of the bungalow a coat of fresh lime wash. Again, the woodwork was liberally painted with art oil. In front was a raised portico which served as a carport, and on top a veranda from which we had a splendid view of the river and its shipping and beyond the Himalayas. So there they had a portico. What do you mean by portico? It is a gate. It is a kind of gate having two columns and having roof on it, and it is adjacent to the main home or the house. Okay. There was a raised portico, and this portico was used as a port. Okay. And above that there was a veranda also. There was a veranda also in the bungalow where this great writer John ROWNTREE lived. Okay. And from there they could see the river, the splendid view of the river Brahmaputra and shipping, and beyond that they could see the Himalayas, because during that period there were not so population. The place was not populated. There were no tall buildings or houses. So though they lived on the south bank of the Brahmaputra, that means in Guwahati, they could see up to the Himalayas. Okay. Now In the foreground was Peacock Island. Again, in the foreground of their bungalow, there was a Peacock Island with the dome of a Hindu temple just visible through the trees. And the Peacock Island, okay, on the Peacock Island, there was a Hindu temple. Peacock Island, there was a Hindu temple, okay, and this Hindu temple was visible through the trees. Now, I am going to tell you this Peacock Island is known as the Umananda, okay, and this Umananda is the smallest river island in the world, as Majuli is the biggest or largest river island in the world. So Umananda, this Peacock Island, where there was a temple, and still there is a temple, and this island is known as Umananda, the smallest river island in the world. So there was a Hindu temple on this Peacock Island. Though the writer has said here the total island was called Peacock Island, he had never discovered or he had never seen a single peacock there, but he had discovered many monkeys there. So why was the island called the Peacock Island? The writer did not have any idea regarding its name, okay, because there was not a single peacock he could see, but there were monkeys and monkeys, okay. That is why the poet says, the writer says, I never discovered peacocks, but only monkeys on the island. Okay. So ironically, this was called Peacock Island, but there was not any peacock. There, the writer could see monkeys only. And as the cold weather advanced, the Brahmaputra shrank, and the distance between Peacock Island and the mainland grew less until by the end of the hot weather, only a narrow dividing channel remained. Okay, so when there was a rainy season, then there was a great distance. But when there was the cold weather, that the rainy season went up or finished, then the writer says the distance became less between the mainland on Guwahati and Peacock Island. And between this mainland of Guwahati and Peacock Island, the writer says that there was a dividing channel. Okay. Only a small dividing channel remained during the cold season, that means dry season. And there was water also in the dividing channel, small dividing channel, there was water also. There was a belief that if this channel ever dried up completely, it would mean the end of the British Raj. And people believed that if the channel between the mainland of Guwahati and the Peacock Island ever dried up, there would be the end of the British Raj from India. This was believed by the people of Assam, the writer has said. So, what was the belief? It may be a superstitious belief, but whether it was true or false, the writer could not ascertain it, because when India became independent in 1947, he was not in Guwahati, or he was not there. He was in Shillong just before we have got it. That after the independence also, the writer used to live in Shillong, and then he left India and went to or returned to his native land, England. Okay, so writer has said here, in some years it very nearly did. That means in some years the water of this narrow channel nearly dried up, but it did not completely dry up. Okay, but whether one could walk dry shot to the island in 1947, independence year, I don't know because I no longer lived in Guwahati at that time. The writer says that whether in 1947, when India became independence from the British Raj, this river channel or narrow channel was completely dried up or not, the writer could not say it because he was not there then. So the belief of the people, whether it was true or false, the writer could not prove it, as his presence was not there in the year 1947, the independence year of India. Okay. Now the writer is saying about the importance of Guwahati. All of us know that Guwahati is called the entrance of the north, entrance to the or gateway to the northeast. So today Guwahati is called the entrance or gateway to the northeast, and in that time also, during that period also, Guwahati had a great importance because people traveling between Kolkata and Shillong had to stay overnight at Guwahati because Guwahati was the entry. And not only that, people who travel other districts of Assam from Guwahati or upper Assam's district, then they had to stay 1 or 2 nights in Guwahati. So ignoring Guwahati, the travelers could not do anything during that time too. So today also Guwahati is the gateway to the northeast because the airport of the northeast is located in Guwahati, railway station and all other educational institutions, and the High Court for all the 7 states. Guwahati High Court is the only High Court for the people of this northeast. So that is why the writer has mentioned that Guwahati at that time also had a great importance. Okay, so he says, although Guwahati was the port of entry, so to speak, into Assam, most travelers passed through on their way between Kolkata and Shillong or to districts further up the valley. Occasionally, however, they stayed overnight, and sometimes we had unusual visitors, one of which was a tiger that had presumably been washed up by a flood. So, with the usual visitors who travel between Kolkata and Shillong, they stayed in Guwahati for overnight. So, with these usual visitors, the writer had the experience of seeing an unusual visitor also. That was a tiger. Once a tiger also was seen near the house of the writer or in Guwahati, because probably the tiger was swept away by the flood water, and the pack mark of the tiger was still visible on the pack mark of the large tiger was still visible on their compound. So the writer says that with the usual visitors they could see sometimes unusual visitors also. So my dear students, I hope you are doing well with your studies, and I have explained this lesson very slowly in a slow motion. Hope you have already understood, and if there is any doubt or any kind of problem, so you may ask me by questioning. I will always give you response for your need. Okay, I will try my best to clear your doubt. So study well, stay well, maintain your good health. So this is all about today's video or explanation of the lesson Memoirs of a CHOTA SAHIB, which is written by John ROWNTREE. The last British senior conservator of Forest of Assam. Thank you.